Hi, so you want to build an Access database? Well, I'm here to give you a hand with that. I'm Scott Wyman. I'm the Employee Training and Technology Coordinator at Central Texas College. And I'm going to start out with the basics, some basic information that you need to know. Then we'll jump right into setting up our database. We'll roll through, we'll talk about tables, we'll talk about forms, we'll talk about queries, and then towards the end, we're going to get into a multi-table database, which is one of the things that makes Access such a powerful tool because it's what's known as a relational database. It's not just your plain old database, it's a relational database. And what that means is you can have multiple groups of information and you can relate those groups of information so that you can work with those multiple groups. And you'll see what I'm talking about as we go through. So don't get scared. This whole thing isn't going to be a PowerPoint presentation. I just have a few slides here at the beginning to get you started, to get you that key information that you need to know. So the first thing you want to do is you want to have a plan. That plan should include knowing what type of information you want to capture, whether it's text or numbers or dates or that kind of stuff. Would you need names and departments and all that kind of stuff? Gather all that information before you jump in to Access. And then also know what you want to do with that information. Are you just collecting this so that you can refer back to it later? Are you collecting it so that you can create reports? Are you creating it so that you can share the information with someone else? So all good information, things that you need to know before you actually jump into Access. We're going to look at the different database structure elements. An Access database main structure are its tables. These tables are very similar to Microsoft Excel worksheets. And I'm sure a few of you out there have used Excel as a database program before. And there's nothing wrong with that. Excel has some really good features to use as a database, but it's limited on how much it can do. Oops. Then we'll look at records. Records are what make up the tables. And then individual fields are what make up the records. So they all kind of work together to create one beautiful Access database. So when you're thinking about your tables, tables consist of multiple records or a single record if you're just getting started. It's ideal not to enter the information directly into a table. It's best to create a form. Every table should have its own form, if for nothing else than updating purposes. Records make up the tables, and then records are made up of fields. And these are the individual bits of information, such as name, address, department, age, date of birth, so on and so forth. So it's like I said, it's kind of like an Excel spreadsheet. We have columns, we have rows. The only difference is the columns and rows aren't labeled with numbers and letters. So once you've figured out what type of information you're going to be collecting, these are going to be the individual fields. You get to decide what type of data is going to go into each field, whether it be numbers, text, date and time, currency, so on and so forth. And we'll look at the different data types as we roll into creating our database. Then you want to figure out what type of information you want to pull from your database. Queries are great tools for pulling information from database rather than just going in and searching for a name or searching for a department, so on and so forth. So we'll look at the queries too. They're really the workhorses of the Access database. So start small. It's good to put your main ideas on paper, or as I prefer, in Microsoft OneNote. Again, I'm not trying to promote Microsoft. It's just what I use. So here's what I've done. I've come up with the information that I want to collect. All right. name, age, date of birth, email address, what kind of exercise these people are going to do. This is going to be a fitness database. So this is all the information initially that I wanted to start with. So then you take this information and you break it down into tables of like information. For example, a date of birth and an email address really wouldn't fall into the same category as what type of exercise a person wants to do. So chances are this exercise to do is going to be pulled out and put into a different table. How many repetitions have they done? Again, probably going to be pulled out and put into probably the same table as exercise. Same with these ones, how long it took and how far they ran. And then, department, sex, date joined, that kind of stuff would probably all stay here with the name. This is basic personal information, and this is all exercise type of information. So you take that information and you break it down into the individual tables. And this is where you can expand on that, modify the information. I decided I should probably have a member ID, which would be a unique identifier for each individual. And then we're going to take that member ID, which is unique to the individual, and we're going to use that in our secondary table to link the two together in their relationship. I also decided to break down the name into last name and first name. That way, if I need to sort my database by last name, I can do that without problems. I decided to get rid of the date of birth because if I'm asking their age, I didn't really need their date of birth. So this is going to be my primary table, and then this is going to be my secondary table. We'll start by creating the primary table first. So, if you want to start out small, just to get used to Access, go ahead and make a single table database. Just maybe an address book would be a good place to start. That way you can use a query to go out and pull everybody from this town or that town. And then practice going in and making changes, adjust your field sizes, make changes to your forms, this kind of stuff. Because practice is going to hone your skills and make it that much easier when you get in and start doing the more complicated stuff. Some general guidelines to follow when creating an Access database. Number one, do not duplicate information. The only type of information that you should duplicate would be a primary key field, which is, an ID number, something of that nature. But you don't want an ID number, last name, first name, and address in this field, and then ID number, last name, first name, and address in this field. That's a complete duplicate of information. You get rid of the name and the address, and you just leave the ID number and then link those fields together. So you want to group like information on individual tables like I showed you on my OneNote notes. And then we're going to connect the tables with a common field, and that's what they call the primary key in Access. And we'll get into that as well. So it's really kind of simple the way we're going to get started. You simply find your Access icon. Mine's down here on my taskbar. Yours might be over here in your Windows list. But once you find your icon, go ahead and double click on that icon. Mine's open on my second screen. I'll just bring it over here. Know that Access comes with a whole bunch of templates that you can use. There's nothing wrong with opening these templates, digging into them, actually using them, and then find out how they work. A call tracker, fairly simple. It'll tell you kind of what it does here. So again, go ahead, use a template. Open one up that you think might work for you. Start using it and then dig in and find out how it works. We're going to start fresh. So we're going to click on the blank desktop database. And unlike most Microsoft applications, the first thing Access wants you to do is name and save your database. It shows you the default save location here. So if you wanted to make a change to that, you can click on this folder here. I'll just go ahead and save it to my default location. I'm going to name it Fitness Tracker, and then we'll click the Create button. Also know that I'm going to try and keep these sessions down to about 20 to 30 minutes in length, so that if you can't watch, the entire program, which this whole thing will probably last 3 to 4 hours. If you can't watch the whole thing, you can, you watch individual sections and then come back and pick up where you left off in that section. So this will be section 1, Access Database Basics and Table Setup. So here is our initial table. You see it says up here, Table 1. Over here on the left side, you'll see this is what they call the navigation pane. As you build new things into your database, whether it's another table, a form, a query, a report, whatever, those will all be listed over here on the side. So all we have is our table, so no big deal. You can hide this navigation pane if you want some more room to work. Just click that double chevron left, and there's a double chevron right to open it back up again. Now I'm going to put my book for this class out on the website as well. I'll put it in the same area as these videos. But this part is going to differ a little bit from what I have in the book, because for this one I'm going to start creating our table a little bit different way, because Access makes it kind of easy. It starts you off with an ID field. This ID field is what they call an auto number field. In other words, every record that you add to this table, it will increase that number. It'll increment it 1 every time. So the first will be 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, so on and so forth. Because it's the primary key, you can never use any of these numbers again in this field. So if you delete a record, say you delete record number 3, you can't come back later on and reassign record number 3 to a different record. It's gone forever. So that's our default ID field set up as an auto number, and it's also the primary key. And you'll see more about this once we get into a little deeper editing. But for now, we're just going to go in, we're going to add our field names and select, well, actually we're going to select a data type and then add the field names to go along with it. So again, this part's a little bit different from what I have in the student handout, but it's just a little bit different way to do things. And to make it fairly self-explanatory, click to add. So this is our first field. We're going to add our second field. First thing you need to do is you tell Access what type of data is going to go into this. So you're going to select your data type. Short text is for fields that are going to contain no more than 255 characters. Then we have a number, which sets the field to accept numbers only. Then there's a currency field, which is going to format with the $sign. It's going to automatically put it in there for you, so you don't have to worry about it. Date and time gives you a calendar date picker so that you can insert a date if you want. Yes, no gives you a checkbox. Lookup and relationship will give you a drop-down menu, or what they call a combo box, so that you can select from a list instead of manually typing in all the information. Then we have rich text, which is very similar to long text. Rich text and long text will allow you to enter into these fields. Then we have attachment. Attachment allows you to attach photos, PDF documents, that sort of thing, to each individual record. So this is another cool feature. Then we have hyperlinks, predominantly used by me anyway for email addresses. You can also add, website URLs, so on and so forth. Then there's calculated field that you can use to say, calculate the total number of records in your database, or total number of records in a query that you pulled. And then there's also a paste as fields. So for this one, it's going to be our last name field. I'm going to select short text, and I'll type the name. And you'll notice I'm using what's called Pascal casing, where I capitalize the first letter of each word and then smush them together as one word. There's another version of this called camel casing, where you capitalize only the second and subsequent words. So in other words, this would be last name with the L in lowercase. I prefer Pascal casing, and I just like the way it looks. And the reason we do this, we could technically put a space in there and make it last name, but Access is the only database that I know of that will allow spaces in field names or in object names. So it's just good practice to either use the camel casing or the Pascal casing, or if you want the appearance of a space in there, you could use an underscore. That works too. So you decide which one you want to use. So there's my first field. So I'm going to press enter, and that automatically takes me to the next field. And I'm going to select short text again for this because it's going to be first name, I'm sorry. And then we'll tab over to the next one. And the next one is also going to be short text. This is going to be department. And then we'll enter. And after that, we're going to put in, let's see, we can do just about any order of these fields that we want. But let's put another short text, and we'll do phone number. And some of y'all might be saying, short text for phone number? Why would you use short text for phone number? It's got numbers in it. Well, if you use the actual phone number format with the area code and then the following 7, you're going to have parentheses, and then you have a dash between the first 3 and the last 4. The parentheses and the dashes are not numbers. If you make this a number field, it will not allow the parentheses or the dash. You'll just have to put the 10 digits all smushed together. So that's why we make this a short text. Now we're going to put in this one. We're going to make a yes, no, because we're going to give them the option to select whether they are male or female. So there's a couple check boxes for us. And then we'll put in height and weight and age, and these are going to be number fields. So we'll do height, weight, and age. All right. Then we're going to put in our member date, the date that this person joined our fitness group. So we'll make this a date and time. Member date. And then we'll do email. Oops, we're going to make this a hyperlink. Call email address. And then this is going to be their goal. The goal might get kind of lengthy depending on how much they want to type in there. So we'll make that a long text because they might go more than 255 characters. And now we'll put in their activity level. Let's make the activity level short text for now. We're going to go ahead and make a change to this, but for now, short text is good. And then our last field is going to be a date time for today's date. There we go. So we've set up our fields. I said I wanted to make a change to our activity level, and there's a few other changes we need to make to this. But for right now, let's go ahead and call this quits for this section of the video, or for this section of the course. And then when we come back for part 2, we'll get into modifying the tables. So for now, take care, stay safe. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.